Hey Panda Nation, you are listening to the Inverted Gear podcast with your hosts Nelson and Hillary. Join us every week as we take you behind the scenes into our brand, discuss upcoming projects, and conversate beyond the mat with the interesting people we've met along the way.
Hey Chris, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We are doing well.
What a year, right?
Tell me about it.
So we talked last like this time last year.
Yeah, I hopped on a call with you and Emily.
Yes. So yeah, I mean it's crazy. I think at that point we were still thinking it was going to be like 2 weeks for this whole thing to blow over.
Mm-hmm. That's the hardest part now. It was in many respects it was not what we thought it was gonna be, and also like the information we had back then, it was just so different, and everybody was just so afraid, and I don't know. It was just I still waiting for all the data to come out and whatever. It's hard to make decisions. As much as I don't agree with some of the things that were done, it was just hard to make decisions with the information we had back then. We have so much better information now. And I still amazed that it was never brought up. It's like, hey, if you go outside and you exercise and you keep your blood sugar down and you lose some weight, your likelihood of surviving this goes up high, goes up by a ton.
For sure.
And that's still not being mentioned. It's like.
So I remember though that when we first had this whole thing, we had a Zoom call with all my students, and one of my guys, he's a doctor. And everyone was like, "Hey doc, when's it going to be? Is it going to be a month? Is it going to be 2 months?" And he was just saying over and over again, 1 year. In 1 year, things will start to be kind of like. And I think that's kind of where we're at, because I do think that it's kind of, we're definitely almost at the end here, right? From what you see, or.
Yeah, I mean, a good indicator is airline travel, in my opinion. People are traveling again. All those fares that you were seeing were especially early on when everybody canceled their flights and they were just trying to stay above water, and you could go from the tri-state area to Miami for $90,
yeah.
or hop over to Europe for $400, and that a lot of the stuff stayed depending on whatever travel restrictions there were, but there were some ridiculous deals early on, and a lot of younger, healthier people that were willing to take the risk got to jump on opportunities of a lifetime, you know, before everything started locking down again. And now, especially now, I think my sister went to Miami maybe a month ago, right?
Yeah, it was end of February.
She went in end of February, and she bought all her flights. Her husband, 4 kids. I think all the flights were under $150.
Yeah.
Now, Miami's back to, if you want to go to Miami, it's $300, $400 from any airport near New Jersey.
So I just got back from Mexico and Florida last week, and if you go to those 2 places, you would never even think that there was a pandemic. It's they're just living life out there.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona right now, I was watching some of the videos our friend Christian posted.
Yeah.
He's America, freedom is
Yeah.
not a max TV scene. Everybody's inside of this giant bar.
Yeah.
So hey, as long as numbers stay down and people are careful.
I mean, I just can admit that I really have no idea what's going on, because it seems like not locking down doesn't work, locking down doesn't work. Because, there's places that just never did, and they had people die, and people that locked down had people die, So it's some of those places like Arizona, they just kind of let it ride, and, it's good for the businesses too, I guess.
I am willing to admit I'm not smart enough to figure this out and make the decisions that need to be made. So at this point, my mom got vaccinated. My dad got vaccinated. I believe his parents are thinking about getting vaccinated. They're
thinking about it.
They're on that. We'll wait a little bit longer side of things.
For them, it's they've been living life as normal as they can, it seems, without an issue without exposure. I mean, my dad runs his own business, and my mom's in a very quiet office
What does
already.
your dad do?
My dad has his own tree service, and then through the winter he does the plowing and snow removal, and it's pretty much just been a lot of outside activity already between him and his workers.
Yeah.
Small team of guys that have been very careful and wearing their masks whenever they're around other people.
There've been none of these guys has caught it.
Yeah, like everyone, I think just having the awareness, they've been able to keep on, and originally he was actually considered one of the essential businesses.
Right.
Because they do a lot of emergency work, storm damage, whether it's trees or snow. So, and then my mom is in the healthcare industry. She's part of administrative, but so between working from home, splitting her time between home and office, it's kept her busy but isolated more, and it's been a learning experience.
So, Chris, how has running a school been through all this? And before we get into it, I just want to commend you. I think of all the people I know and that I've talked to about this, you really kicked ass.
Thank you.
It was like inspiring to watch you like navigate this.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough thing that we kind of touched upon. Like no one really knows what the hell is going on, and you have very wide ranges of viewpoints on it. I have people that still don't believe it's real, really at all, and on the other side, I have people that like really won't leave their house still. So it's really about kind of coming up with policies for the gym that are consistent and that fit somewhere in the middle for all those people. And basically what I tried to do was I really just deferred to what the state guidance was. When they said you could open up, I opened up. Whatever they say in terms of quarantines is what we do. And I just tried to make it consistent so no one could be like, hey, you did this rule for them and it's this rule for me. I mean, it's hard, when you own a jiu-jitsu gym, there's no like training on pandemics. I had to be like the miniature Fauci of my gym. Just do the best we can. We've had people test positive, and then you gotta, let those people know that we're in the class with them and get them tested, have them, but, one thing that I'm proud of is we never had an outbreak. We never had someone come in and spread it to 10, 15 other people because we did, if someone tested positive the day after they trained, we kind of handled it and then got back to business when we could.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, most of the gyms I know that were responsible and kept attendance, kept track of what was going on, and like you said, you just let people know. It's like, hey, this guy came in hot.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. This is what needs to happen. From what I've heard, like over 90% of the time, it was just that. It's like maybe one guy caught it and he got tested, so he had it. He didn't go back to the gym, and like that was it. Like maybe one or two people were infected.
Yeah. No, I mean it's I think it's like anything else. I told my students that in combat sports and wrestling, jiu-jitsu, this has always been a thing. Like if someone came in with impetigo or staph, we would always do the same thing. We would let the people know that train with them. We would get that person to get a doctor's note to come back. So this is a new thing, but in another way, it's almost the same thing. Like it's just a thing that we deal with to train. You don't ignore it. You don't fear it. You just kind of like deal with it like it's ringworm or staph or impetigo, So that's kind of the viewpoint that I've taken on it. It's nothing to ignore, but as long as we, like you said, handle it, then we just kind of roll through it.
Oh, look at you.
Ba-dum-bump.
Yeah, for us, especially now, with Hillary being pregnant, we're not rushing to get back.
Thank you.
So, but we are looking forward to sometime later this year. Hopefully, we'll get vaccinated and we'll get back to it.
Yeah, I actually got the vaccine like a month ago.
Nice.
Yeah, and I got super sick the second shot.
Oh no.
That means it's working.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. I'm shivering in my bed. It's working.
Did it last long?
Probably 2 days. I was like,
wow.
Out of commission, yeah. But I do some volunteer work, and they just said, go, you know, if any of our people, like, go try to get the shot. All right. So, but I've been recommending to my students to do it. I'm like, look, if you want this thing to be over, like, you know, I understand the skepticism about it. But, you know, it's like, if you want this thing to be over, get this thing that's 95% effective, and we could be done with this, you know?
I mean, we get a flu shot. It is the same thing. It's like, even, let's say, it's 95% effective, or one of them is like 75, it's still like, if you get it, you get such a milder version.
Sure.
So let's stop talking about COVID for a minute,
yes.
since I think everybody's sick of the topic.
Yes.
Now that your school is getting back in gear, and I think one of the coolest things you were doing was you were very engaged with your kids program while that was going on. And I remember you were like driving to students' houses to promote them, like, you know, all kinds of stuff to keep the kids engaged. How is your kids program looking now going into the summer? And you always have like fun activities planned for them. Is there anything cool you have coming up?
Yeah, so it's really exciting. We're really in a very happy time right now, because it's like every week we have more kids coming back. So the mats are getting big again. We're having kids returning, and we have a lot of new kids joining. And basically, like when we first started doing in person again, we had to combine all the ages, and now we're at the point where we have to split it again. So it's kind of like the program's like building back up, and you know, it's still a work in progress. We have some families that are like, hey, I only want the kids training with their siblings, so we do that for now, and some of them are training with everyone. We're figuring out summer camp and activities right now. It's still like, it's hard to predict anything these days. But yeah, I love the kids program. I always say, like, the whole thing about the gym is, my goal is to like have these kids really love jiu-jitsu. Like I'm really like not super into them competing, like if they want to, whatever. But the goal is just to like have them really love jiu-jitsu, make friendships with each other, like really love the gym, like the coaches and everything, and get them into the adult program. So to see my 12, 13, 14-year-old kids coming back who've been training with me for 5-6 years, that's really special to me.
That is very cool.
I gotta ask, how do you keep them? Because aren't you competing with a lot of other activities and sports and just all the extras that come with the kids' lives?
Yeah, that is definitely like one of the things that can get in the way. Like they take a break for basketball or something. But what I try to do is I encourage the parents to like taper jiu-jitsu. Like, all right, if they want to play basketball, at least have them go once a week. You know, just have it a little bit in the background. Like if it, you know, we've been training a long time. We know that there's times where we train a lot, some years or some months, and then there's times where we kind of like maybe just train a little bit. And I try to already instill that in the kids, that it doesn't have to be 100% for the rest of your life constantly. Like if you want to do basketball for a season and you only make it to train a couple times this month, like at least you're still like thinking about jiu-jitsu a little bit, but also not constantly flooring it to where they're burnt out after doing it for a year. So I'm
Nice.
very anti-burning out the kids. That's my stance.
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
That is huge. I mean, even adults too, we get burnt out, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad it's still part of that it's part of their routine, even when they get pulled away maybe with something else, they can still keep their interest.
Yeah. And the friendships that they make with each other are really key, and kind of designing the class in ways that facilitates that, like that they actually really like each other and everything. I think both of us, all three of us, are very inspired by Christian from BJJ Globetrotters, and he talks a lot about the social aspect of jiu-jitsu and the recognition, and all that stuff is the same for the kids too.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation with Christian about kids jiu-jitsu, and when he was running his gym in Copenhagen, like at one point how all the kids wanted to compete. So he started explaining this drill that they were using for their kids coming up for like a tournament, and what the rules were. And like when he was done, I just looked at him and was like, "So you have the kids wrestle?" He's like, "Yeah, like they just wrestle. They don't give up points. They don't let each other like sweep or like take each other down." It's like that's the gist of it, and it was so funny. And then he had like such a successful working in this like wrestling drills into the kids program that he started doing it with adults. And then I remember going when we went to Copenhagen and visited the academy. All the adults were so hard to sweep, just because he had them doing these like little kids wrestling drills, and it was so funny to me.
Yeah, so
playful.
So what was it like? It was like you just can't, like if your back hits, you have to pop back up kind of stuff.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, or starting, like those drills you do with kids.
You did that with us at my school, I think, where you had to sit back to back and someone had to get to the top. Yeah,
like those little So that's like a little kid wrestling drill, and I love working those into kids classes, and use like random, not random, but like situations you don't really run into. So like they're sitting back to back,
stomachs.
They're laying down next to each other, like feet by somebody's feet is by somebody else's head, and then they have to like sit up and like just wrestle for position. And especially like adults, adult white belts, one of the hardest things to get them to understand is it's like, yeah, jiu-jitsu is awesome. Yeah, you want to like work on your sweeps, you want to work on all this like very technique oriented, and you want your technique to be clean. But when you're competing or when you're really going at it, like a scissor sweep, a single leg X sweep is never going to be clean.
Right.
So there's still like an aspect of you, like you have to get it. Like you might get somebody to their hip, but in order to get them down, you're really gonna have to like come up and get your hips above their hips and get the legs off balance, that kind of stuff. Especially no gi.
Yeah.
In the gi, if I can grab both of your sleeves, I can actually take your hands away, and I have like really good control of your hands. But with doing no gi, I always have hands. So like if I get knocked off balance, I can always put my hands down or wrestle my way back up.
Right. Yeah. You got to kind of train instincts with people.
Yes.
Just to get on top, stay on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you said, it's very rarely the sweep is going to look how you drill it in class. It's like you get them like 80% wobbly, and then you got to tackle them.
Yeah.
And even more so with kids, I think, too.
Yeah, and I mean one of the aspects we always talk about is like especially if you get two white belts, but one of them wrestled in high school. Even let's not even say he's like a Division I wrestler, because that's like a completely different animal. Right. But like the guy has like a little bit of understanding of wrestling, always advances faster. Not always, but in the grand scheme of things, on average, if you get a wrestler doing jiu-jitsu, his jiu-jitsu is gonna get better faster than a regular guy.
Right.
A big part of it is like, hey, like they understand their hips, and they understand how to scramble.
So when I see white belts, so I feel like there's a couple like categories of new guy, and each kind of has its pro and con. Like there's some people that come in that are like super spaghetti, like they're very, very loose, like they like barely push the person, they don't really come up, they're like too loose, and then you have like the like super tight, like 150% the whole time. But then you do sometimes get that person who's right in the middle, who just has like that Goldilocks level of like loose, but they like get on top kind of thing. And I think that a lot of times that guy maybe wrestled in high school, who knows to do the technique, but also knows to like, you gotta go kind of thing,
I feel like if it's not wrestling, it's gymnastics. That body awareness, they will always land on their feet. Same like wrestlers, they just do not go to their backs.
Yeah.
But that flexibility, it's body awareness, how their hips work, how they can get their arms and legs to work together. Very frustrating.
Yeah, I think it's body mechanics too. Like some people who are brand new, they like try to move their arm in ways it doesn't go. Like
Yeah,
you know,
it's very unnatural.
yeah. So I think just I agree with you. Like maybe gymnastics, they kind of learn like the most efficient ways to move.
Yeah, I a long time ago, a friend told me, he's like, if you want your kids to be a good, you want your kid to be a good athlete, you take them to gymnastics when they're little.
Yeah.
It's like they don't have to be competitive. They don't have to try to make the state team or the national or be on Olympic track. But you just take them to gymnastics, and like they're like gonna learn how to tumble. They're gonna learn like hand walking.
Is Leo doing any activities?
So there's a really good school nearby. It's called Parquet's, and if it wasn't for everything going on, he'd be there already.
That's gymnastics? You said.
Yeah, it's a gymnastics school. It's called Parquet's. And right now, Leo's doing preschool. That's why we have freedom to do these podcasts.
Nice. But
Quiet
you
house.
drop him off for that, or?
So
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, yes.
You seem
That's
excited
like
to drop him off. Yep, he's gone.
No, because you know what? It was very hard at first, but now because he loves it and I know he really likes his teacher, I feel more confident. Like it's just our routine
Is he
now,
3
and
now?
we have a nice, almost next month.
Okay.
So I really used to miss him in the morning, but it is amazing how much more we get done now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just half a day, but it's every day. And like I said, because he's happy to do it, I know he's making friends. He likes his teachers, and it's nearby. So it's been a good experience,
Is it
I think, all
kindergarten in
around.
September now? Is that how it goes?
Kindergarten when he's like 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's still
So
like
not yet.
way
But-
early.
Right, but it's not daycare. They have a curriculum where he is becoming more verbal. They're actually helping with some potty training.
his
And,
colors are down.
Color, yeah, they do a lot of colors and counting and letter
Well,
recognition.
you
They
need
do a little
that
bit
for
of
the
Spanish.
graphic design help. If you're like, Leo, I need a red and
I
an
know.
orange, and he hands you blue and purple.
Yeah, and he's definitely a little builder too. He likes to engineer ramps and buildings and
That's awesome.
all kinds of
Do
things
all
for his
parents
toys to play on.
start like a preschool at like 3 or what's? I don't know
No.
how this works. Do some people just wait?
So
till
kindergarten, like you can, when you have to start them, is kindergarten, and then they go into first grade.
Yeah, if you
So-
want to be part of the school program or even learning at home as well, homeschooling.
Yeah,
it's a
and
good time.
And then there's requirements for kindergarten now. So a lot of kids go to pre-K, so they start getting the routine down and going into school and listening to directions, hanging out with somebody you're not related to. But because so many kids go to preschool now, and like they're like the curve, like the learning curve is like so much higher than it used to be. Like a lot of these kids are learning how to read like in kindergarten now.
Wow.
You know, so it's something we felt he needed. And the other aspect that influence of the decision was he's like so social. He has 4 cousins. They live in New Jersey, my sister. So he's wanted to see them every day. He's wanted to go play with people every day. So we felt bad, like, we are fun to be around, but not that fun to be around apparently.
Yeah.
So he started going to school. He has his little
people
buddies
his
now.
size,
Yeah.
his age.
And then, like, a little bit, and then we want to get him to do gymnastics. We live in an area known for wrestling, so he's definitely going to wrestle.
Great.
And like you said, like, we're going to expose him to jiu-jitsu, but I have no intention of ever forcing him to compete in jiu-jitsu or put him like, oh, you need to be a world champion when you grow up, or like any of that nonsense. I'm just happy. If he doesn't touch a jiu-jitsu mat until he's 18 or 20, and like, he finds for the love for it eventually, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Because I think jiu-jitsu has so much to offer, and it is such a cool thing to do when you are grown up. Because a lot of the benefits from jiu-jitsu you can get from others, like, team sports or like learning judo or wrestling when you're little. And then it's a lot easier to do those things when you're little, and there's like the team aspect, and like you get such great coaching and like the amount of mat experience you can get from wrestling. And you just go to school, hop on the bus, and they take you to a tournament, and you get like 5 matches.
Yeah.
And like there's such there's
And you have
an
the team environment
enormous
with your high school and everything.
Yes. So if he wants to do jiu-jitsu and wrestle at the same time and play whatever sport or play like if he doesn't want to play sports in high school, we're not going to force him. If he wants to be like a little
artist,
drama club or piano or whatever, like
I mean,
no, I think
we want him to be able to try everything
Yeah.
that he is interested in.
yeah.
More exposure, the better.
Yeah, he'll
for this
definitely
guy.
have to work out though. We have the kettlebells at home. He's gonna be swinging kettlebells soon.
Yeah, and he likes going downstairs and
Yeah.
being with us when we're working out. We have to tread carefully, of course, but I mean, there's mats he can tumble around on, and there's certain equipment that he is allowed to play with, and we go crazy.
I play games with him, and like he doesn't realize I'm just working on his wrestling skills.
Right.
yeah.
Like I pick up one of his feet, and then like I start like trying to like knock him off balance, and he's like has his balance in one foot, so that single leg defense will be on point, and he likes like climbing on my back, and I try to shake him off. So a lot of the drills you would do in a kids class, we play with like those not too complicated since he's still so tiny.
Yeah.
But
I think it's super important to like just have it be fun for the kids.
Yeah.
And if I don't think kids competition is bad, but I tell parents now actually right off the gate that I'm like my goal is not to make the best 9-year-old gray belt in the world. If he's competing with the goal of this being a very small beginning portion of a long jiu-jitsu journey. So like I have a lot of opinions, Nelson. That's the thing. But I'm very anti like Facebook fan page kids, competitor, stuff like that. Like just let them like compete if they want to, not compete, train, go through those periods. So I have one student who he's 12 now and he's been training for like 7 years. And through the course of 7 years, there's been times where he's been like very like into competing, very like high energy. And then sometimes he trains more, just playfully enjoys coming and whatever. And I think kind of going through those cycles of like, sometimes you're like really like in it, sometimes you're just kind of having fun. I mean, I know I do that with my training. Do you feel like you have kind of cycled through different levels of intensity throughout the years?
Oh, for sure. I mean, when we started dating, we were both very into it, and we were going to like training camps and going to the PANs and going to the Worlds and pretty much living off the IBJJF schedule.
Yeah.
And then we're like, you know what? We got our black belts. We've done well, like every belt level. Maybe there's more to this. So that's when we started traveling, and like training intensity went down. And then we're like, you know what? We're gonna have Leo. So we had Leo, and then we were after like a few months, we were both back to training, and we were like alternating nights. So like I would go train on Monday, he would train on Tuesday, then I'd be back on Wednesday. Then we'll like flip the following week, and now we've been off, but we still plan to get back after baby number 2 and like follow a similar schedule, and eventually we'll figure out how to train around the kids' training schedule if they have like wrestling practice or jiu-jitsu or soccer or basketball or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but like you said, like I'm not a fan of pushing kids into the spotlight of the sport and like fan pages, especially like Superfights, and there's like all these eyes on them.
A lot of pressure for a kid.
And especially, I don't like one of the aspects like makes me uncomfortable is in Superfights, especially now there's like a submission only for kids. I don't like the aspect of where the kid, like at that age, I don't feel like even before they're 18, I mean 16 years old, they can do some damage to their joints because they don't want to tap to something.
Yeah.
And it's like at that age, it's like what are they getting out of it? It's just not worth it.
I've been at Nagas, and I know that you guys do a lot of reffing too, where there's whatever coach you want to imagine doing this, but there's some guy like yelling like, "Cody, don't you tap! Don't you tap! There's 30 seconds!" Like, and the kid's like,
I've heard parents break it.
Like, like you've seen kids crying on the mat, and like, or like the kid gets off, and the guy's like, "What did we work on this whole month? We worked on double leg defense." Like that's the kind of stuff that I hate. Like,
yeah,
it's hard to hear.
I mean,
It is.
when we had Leo, we made a decision that we're never gonna be those parents. And whenever I got in trouble or in argument with parents all the time because I would stop kids' matches when the submission was locked.
Yep.
Like, give the kid a chance to get out, and then if it looked bad, I would just stop the match and be like, all right, that's it. And then the parent would be like, oh, he could have gotten out of that.
Really
I was like,
flexible.
okay, like, yeah, stuff like that. I was like, let me put you in that arm bar and show me how he would have gotten out.
Yeah.
It's just like not worth it. So, especially when it's submission only. That's why I really hope if Leo likes to grapple, he wants to grapple, push him into wrestling or even like judo. And judo at that age, it's just throws and pins.
Yeah.
There's no submissions for kids.
In fact, they stop it when there's a dangerous position for wrestling, right?
Yeah, same like wrestling has those rules where like anything potentially dangerous gets stopped. And then judo, if you're on the ground and then you pick somebody up, it stops. So like there's more. It's more like the rules have a much bigger safety net than what jiu-jitsu rules have.
So flip side to this though, yesterday we had our kids class, and me and the other coaches were like, that was we like at the end of class we were like, that was like a 10 out of 10 fun kids class. Because what we did was we did like a mini in-house competition. We gave each kid, we broke them up into two sides. One side had to coach for one kid, one side coached and cheered for the other. And, we were right there watching it, and, like, we were all having a blast. Like, the kids were clapping, we were cheering for each other, and, like, the kids out there, like, were, like, really, like, enjoyed kind of being the ones in the spotlight for a little bit, just for the kids in class. And I feel like, if you're going to be a gym that doesn't really push the pressure of, like, competition and all that comes with that, you could get some of those same benefits of like challenging yourself and dealing with a little bit of adrenaline in by doing some of those like in class type things like that, and you have control over you're not going to have another parent who's screaming at your kid or something. Like we just had a blast yesterday. It was really fun. The kids would say something silly and they would all laugh. Like it was jiu-jitsu is like anything else. There's some things that you see that just kind of bums you out, like a tournament where someone's yelling at their kid, and then you have a kids class where like the kids are all working hard, cheering each other on. Like they go back, that was a good match you had, and they all like, and you're like, wow, this is like why I love this,
Yeah, I mean,
like we've seen a few in-houses, same thing when it's just the rules are met, the refs and the coaches facilitate the matches well, and it's within, I think, a community that's already comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
You certainly can enjoy that experience of just putting it out there on the mat and then shaking each other's hands when you're done and not worrying about all that crap that sometimes goes along with it at the other events.
I think
also when you see kids, especially like the very quiet and shy ones that start jiu-jitsu and like there's no self-confidence there really, and then jiu-jitsu or grappling or whatever it just starts building. Suddenly they start getting the moves you teach, and they notice they're getting the better of their training partners, and then they go out and go to a tournament and have a fun time. They get their hand raised. For a kid, like that's huge, and it carries over to other aspects of their life. So for sure, like we're not saying no, kids shouldn't compete at all. We just gotta be careful how they compete, and the coaches are, because I've seen, like I said, there's terrible coaches out there, but there are also awesome coaches that are like nurturing and they're building the kids' confidence and do a good job at tournaments and keep the kids calm and know how to handle each kid when they lose, because some kids lose and they just move on to playing video games until their next match, while some other kids lose and you just lose their ever loving.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think that the responsibility falls on to the coaches, the parents, and the tournament organizers to set what that experience is going to be like for the kids. Because it's not the kids. The kids are going to go and do jiu-jitsu. Like whatever we do is going to like frame how that happens. And I think that there are good tournaments. Like I feel like I could be wrong, but I always feel like the good fight is usually like pretty good, and I think Tap Cancer Out is usually like. I feel like some tournaments you could kind of predict a little bit more, like crazy shit, you know.
Yeah, there's definitely one notorious one, but
almost guarantee you almost get your money back if there's no crazy shit.
Yeah, I mean, also let's lean into the crazy shit side of the sport for a second.
Sure.
When did you start training?
What do you mean?
What year did you start training?
I started
Do you remember?
2013.
Okay. So you like even 2013 you started training?
Yeah. No. What am I saying? I'm an idiot. 2008. 2008.
I was like, time out.
It's been a long
it caught
day.
me. Wait.
I was like, I met you like 2011 and you were like a purple belt already. So early, like, late before, like around that time when you were training, like 2008, like 2009, 2010, 2011. I think that was like the height of like before or early on, because we talked about this a few episodes ago. Before there was an IBJJ off-pin in every state pretty much now.
Yeah.
Like, local tournaments were kind of that's what you did. You went to local tournaments, and then, like, if you're a super competitor, you went to like Pans and Worlds. But the rest of the time, you're competing at your Grappler's Quest, your Nagas, your Long Island Pride, Good Fight,
Grappler's
that kind of
Quest.
tournament.
If you
grappling, go ahead.
If you told me Grappler's Quest was going to be gone, I would be like, "What's next? Blockbuster's going to be gone?" You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So, especially you growing up in I feel like very fortunate to have come up in the East Coast around that time, because there were so many competitions and there were so many high-level guys at these tournaments that, I was able to go, jump in the dance division, and I had like, great matches that I would not have had because these people were not at my belt level.
I would say, though, that I definitely built up the IBJJF in my head. Like, because I went years only doing Naga and Grappler's Quest and being told, like, oh, IBJJF is, like, a different thing. And I maybe could have got some more blue and purple belt matches at IBJJF, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you had that experience, but people were like, oh, like, you'd be laughing about, Grappler's Quest, and someone would be like, IBJJF, and everyone would get serious. They'd be like, that's a really serious tournament. Like,
I remember
they kick you out if you don't make weight.
Yeah, you have like one chance.
Right before your match.
Yeah, I remember going to like a training. There was like a Alliance teacher course, and then there was also the training camp for the Pants. It was like at the same time, and I was there for the training camp, and like, I was I was a purple at the time. I was like, holding my own in the room, and then like all the Alliance guys were like, how come you're not competing?
Yeah.
I used to be like, oh, I don't know, like, I do like Grappler's Quest and Naga all the time. It's like, no, like, you need to do, especially like, it depends on some teams are really into the IBJJF aspect of the sport, so they were like, no, it's like, this
but
is
when
this
I
is
did do
this
it,
is the
I
thing.
found that the competitors weren't necessarily more difficult, but it was a more organized thing.
Yeah.
Which was probably like would have been a good experience earlier on.
Yeah, for sure. As I have many gripes against the organization, but one thing you can't take away from them is they run a good tournament. And consistently run a good tournament over multiple venues, over like multiple countries now,
Sometimes
so that is something you have to give to them.
Going on, like they'll have like a Spain Open going on at the same time as New Mexico Open, Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I've had some really good times, like back in my purple belt days, where I was going to like the Worlds in California. Like that's a really special experience to go to Long Beach, go to that giant pyramid, and then like throughout the day you like walk around that whole town, and every In-N-Out burger is filled with jiu-jitsu people, and like every street you see, like you know what I'm talking about, like the Worlds used to take over Long Beach, and it was like a convention.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a jiu-jitsu convention. Like all like the hardcore jiu-jitsu people were there, and like there was cauliflower ears everywhere. And you like if you saw another jiu-jitsu shirt outside of the convention center, we give him the nod. And like people were wearing their medals at In-N-Out Burger. And what I realized though is like as cool as that was, I really wanted to travel, and that didn't really count as travel because I would go to the beach maybe one day, and then the rest of the time I was inside the pyramid, either competing or watching my friends or coaching or like watching the finals. And especially like when the finals for the worlds, you were there if you wanted to watch all the black belt matches. And it's like, oh, Rodolfo's gonna fight this guy first round. It's like, oh, we can't miss that. So you ended up spending 20 hours out of the weekend just like Saturday and Sunday, like 10 hours each day, just watching matches. So that's one of the reasons me and Hilly were like, okay, like we want to travel, but it can be like we can train, we can visit academies, we can go to a camp, but I don't want to have the constraints. Like one, I have to make weight, so I gotta watch what I eat. Yeah, like because half your trip you're like, okay, I'm gonna go to the supermarket, buy cooked chicken and spinach. Make sure we make weight.
Remember, we had to go to the store to get a scale.
Yeah, I've done that.
To make sure we could check.
So I feel you had a similar experience to us, where once your hardcore competition days were over, you're like, okay, let me travel a little bit.
And you know what? With this year, I kind of like didn't compete because I couldn't. But I do still kind of miss that a little bit. So I do foresee myself kind of doing both kind of trips in the future. Because I agree with you 100%. Like, that competition trip is not a vacation. It's like you're there to compete, and like you can't try to turn it into a sightseeing. Like even if you try to sightsee like before your competition, you're like, I gotta fight someone in 2 days. So I do want to compete again, and I do miss kind of those talks, like you said like, oh, Rodolfo's fighting, and like seeing the whole arena like cheer for like a crazy match, like that's pretty cool. But yeah, so I've had a few years where I don't compete as much, and I really did get into like the jiu-jitsu travel stuff actually through you guys. You guys linked me up with Christian with Globetrotters, and I think we did the Maine one first, right? And then I ended up doing Belgium, and then Germany. I think the Maine one's the only one we did together, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I started my own travel thing, Elevation Escapes, which has been really fun so far. Hoping you guys will join at some point.
Yeah. So what have you done? What I know you started by organizing trips for your academy, and now you're growing it outside of your academy. Yeah. So what have you done so far, and what's the experience of organizing something like that?
Yeah. So the first one we did was Puerto Rico in 2019, and that was like 14 people. I think all from my gym in that first one. And basically what I wanted to do was, like, I love Globetrotters, but my trips are a little bit more vacation and less instructional. So, like, Globetrotters is great because you get instructors from all over the world, and they basically have a schedule from, like, 8 a.m. till maybe 5 p.m. of classes and stuff. But with us, we basically train, like, once in the morning, maybe once at night. And that's it. Like there's like maybe one class or one open mat a day kind of thing. So it's like a little bit of a different thing, and it's definitely smaller too. Like I think the biggest one I'll ever do is like 40 people, whereas Globetrotters, I think they have like 300 person things and stuff. So I organized Puerto Rico, and I definitely learned a lot of lessons. Like that first one was like a little rough. Like I had to like figure out the accommodations and the transportation and all that. And then the second one was Iceland in January of 2020. And we had 40 people for that one. And that was people from multiple gyms and everything too. And honestly, like we talked about it a lot last year, but we were like, it was like a year in the making. So I opened registration like a year ahead of time, because I let people like do payment plans and stuff like that. And like all of 2019, we're registered for Iceland, and we're putting together the activities. We did snowmobiles and Northern Lights tours and stuff. And we did this trip, and literally like 2 months later was COVID. So we were all like, we always kind of all talk about how like we had this really fun experience that was so close to being like, you know, if the trip was 2 months later, like we would have been SOL. But so we're going back to Iceland in August, so a summer version, and then we're going to St. Martin in January.
Nice.
That's awesome.
St. Martin is both Iceland is awesome, and St. Martin is also awesome. Two very different islands.
True. Have you seen this volcano stuff going on in Iceland?
I was just gonna ask, how about that volcano?
Yeah, I mean, and it's fascinating to me that like how casual Icelanders are about it.
They
like,
go hiking.
Like half the jiu-jitsu guys I know in Iceland, you just like took a hike and like taking selfies with the lava.
I saw this photographer roast a marshmallow and eat it in the lava, which I'm pretty sure is toxic. But hey, how
many likes did he get?
It's building up that immune system.
But I don't know. I've asked a couple of them, and they say that there should be still something. They're going to save some lava for us in August. I don't want them to use it all up.
Cool.
And then San Martin, you're going to work on your pirate French?
Oui.
Savi? He's going to tell people Savi all the time?
Say? What does that mean?
No, my French is terrible, so don't listen to me. It is funny because I took French in school a bunch of years, and I, whenever I go anywhere that's the language, I try to throw it out there. But I think French speakers, they're a lot cooler in the Caribbean about it because everybody has like that Creole French. So it's not like this perfect French to start with. So they're like more understanding, but still like I was trying to ask for the check in French, and the waitress would be like, okay, be right back. Like she wouldn't engage with me in French. And I'm trying so hard.
That's how it was for me in Mexico too. Like I would try, and they'd just be like, just for both of us, let's speak English. But do you feel like when you go somewhere where they speak another language, like it helps you speak the language? Like it kind of comes back to you after a couple days?
Yeah, it's definitely, immersion is totally a thing when it comes to language learning. If you have no other option and your brain is just exposed to it 24/7, you definitely start picking words out, and you're like, oh, suddenly I understand this.
I felt my Spanish coming back, but I guess it wasn't as good as I thought it was.
I mean, like any language, we had a whole episode about language learning. One of the guys, I don't know if you remember Ruan from Globetrotters. Collar and elbow?
The grappling around the world kind of stuff.
Yeah. So he talked about language learning for a little bit and how it relates to learning grappling. You can treat it as a language. And once you know one language and if they're in the same family, you can start picking up here and there. It's like I know the root of that word. So it should hopefully mean something similar, that kind of stuff. So when you're exposed to it and you're traveling to a different country, is just being able. What I always tell people is like, hey, I'm studying this, and they're like, oh, are you fluent? It's like, no, not even close. But I can say good morning. I can ask for food. I can ask where the bathroom is, and I always make sure that I know how to say airport. It's like the amount of times we've been in a taxi. We're like, okay, can you take us to the airport? And they're like, what? I remember being in Austria, Austrian cab driver, no idea what airport was. And then I'm just raking my brain Flughaven.
I was trying to show a bus ticket to the guy for the bus company in Mexico, and he was yelling at me. He's like, loose, more loose. I'm like showing it to him. He's like, loose, and I'm like, why do you mean loose? It's open. He's like, loose, and I was like, oh, the light. Loose. It's funny how I guess context is a thing too, because there's different levels of knowing things. You can know things, remember things, and then you can know things even without remembering it. Like I knew it once I got it, but I didn't know it because my brain like was thinking like he's like telling me to loosen up a little bit.
He's just like tranquilo, gringo.
Loose. I'm like, I'm loose. Just let me on the bus.
So what did the light mean?
What do you mean?
What was he trying to tell you light for?
My screen was too dark to scan the barcode.
Ah, got it. It was okay. So the ticket was on your phone, and he was telling you to lighten up the screen. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So.
Glad you got there.
I almost got stranded there like 4 times. It's.
Oh no.
Where were you in Mexico?
I was in Playa del Carmen. So my brother is one of these perpetual work from home people, and he was living in the city, and they were like, go wherever you want. So he's been in Mexico since December. He was in Ireland before that. So he just works on a laptop and sips margaritas. Not a bad way to go.
Not a bad deal. And it's probably still cheaper than living in New Jersey.
100%. Have you guys been to any of the cities at all this year? Like New York or Philly?
Not really. Not this year for sure. We haven't really gone anywhere.
It's pretty ghost
and
towny.
That's what we've heard from, like, we have friends in Brooklyn, and that's what they were telling us.
I've been getting a lot of people, new students from, like, the city. They're like, yeah, you know.
He's moving to Jersey?
Like, we think, like, maybe we'll have to go back to the office a couple times a month. And for that, like, it doesn't make sense to live in the city, so here we are.
Yeah. Where we live in Pennsylvania, like Lehigh Valley, there was definitely been an influx of yellow license plates. It's just like New York license plates all over the place. And real estate has been crazy. Like, you know, houses are on average about a week in the market. So let's talk about that for a second. You became a real estate agent during the pandemic. I think I was like I was very impressed by. I feel like all the people I know, you like really embrace it. Like, all right, like, you know, there's all these circumstances against me right now. What can I do not only to keep my business afloat, but to like better myself and put myself in a better situation of, like, you know, these days. So not only did you keep your gym afloat, which was impressive, but you got your real estate license, and now you're like a realtor, and like you have these like fancy pictures with your blue suit.
The famous blue suit.
Sharp
suit is what I'd like to know.
Hey, I'll make it happen for you.
Working towards
I know you guys are kind of big readers too, but I'm big on, actually right in the beginning of the pandemic, I finally read Who Moved My Cheese. Have you ever read that one?
We've talked about it. I have not read it, but you gave me a gist before, so if you could expand.
It's like a 20-page book, but basically it's about these little mice that like go to this corner and there's always cheese, and one day the cheese is just gone. So basically it talks about like different types of reactions to that. Like some people are just going to keep going to the same place that they went to, hoping that it's going to come back. Because they don't want to go and face the uncertainty of trying to find a new place where there's going to be cheese. And some people are going to be the first people to go, and then some people are going to be like, they're going to wait a little bit, and then they're going to go. So basically the whole premise is that, like, once you realize things are changed and they're not going back to normal, you got to like do something. Because if you're like kind of holding on to how it was, it's not going to be like that again, if that makes sense. Like, so I guess the viewpoint that I took with this year is I don't know what the future is going to be, but I know that it's not going to be the same as the past. So I tried to do the real estate stuff. I had, you know, some free time early on. I was stuck in the house. We had a pretty strict lockdown here in New Jersey. So I did the course and I studied, took the test. And it's been great. I know a lot of people just from growing up around here, as well as from the gym. So I've sold a few houses so far. It's exciting stuff too. It's a very similar skill set to owning a gym. It's a lot of marketing. It's a lot of kind of checking in with people, keeping contact, and it's exciting because everything's different. I've sold rental properties, like income properties for people to rent. I've found people places for them to be tenants. It's always like something different. You never know like what call you're gonna get next, and it's easy to fit around the jiu-jitsu schedule too.
So that you feel that so you develop these skills as a gym owner, and you're the jiu-jitsu black belt. So do you feel your verbal jiu-jitsu has an advantage over your average realtor?
So yes, and I actually just sold a house last week, and I got there, and the other agent was there, and he's like, "Where do you train?" I'm like, "Oh, I do jiu-jitsu." He's like, "Oh yeah, I own 2 CKO kickboxings, and I don't know if you know this guy. Do you know Dante Rivera?" So this guy trained with Dante Rivera. Yeah. So he ended up going with my client's offer, and he's like, "Look, like, we got a couple other offers that were similar, but like between you and me, like, we talked about jiu-jitsu and stuff, and I just kind of wanted to go with you." So there is like a little like, and I have another guy at my gym who's an agent too, so we kind of throw referrals back and forth. So there's like a little jiu-jitsu syndicate within the real estate world. So
that's awesome. I mean, that's the jiu-jitsu community is so big that whatever business you're in, sometimes you have an end just because some people like might not even like, you might be wearing a suit, but they're like, what's that with the cauliflower ear?
Yeah. So I don't know the guy well, but I've heard about him in 2 ways. So do you know Rolly Delgado? So
yes.
Supposedly he's very good at jiu-jitsu, and he's also very successful at real estate. Like I've heard about him like through a real estate thing. Someone was like, "Oh, you do jiu-jitsu? Do you know Rolly Delgado, like out in, I think he's like down southwest or something?" But supposedly he crushes it in both. So I think it's a great thing for school owners to do. Like if a lot of businesses took a hit this year. We certainly did. And I didn't know if help was coming. So I was like, I got to help myself, So, and I like it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. Very cool. And like you said, most gym owners, the hours are so flexible, especially, if you already have instructors teaching some of the classes. You're not going to be at the gym 24/7.
I mean, it's a lot of work. Because, it does cut into that time that I'm not at the gym. So, Saturdays are tough now. I wake up, I teach the morning classes, take a shower, put on the famous blue suit, and go show some houses,
With the Chris Ulbricht smile on.
But I really do enjoy it. Like, I like the people that I meet. You are, for no matter what, you're kind of assisting someone with a very, like, big change in their life. Maybe it's like a new couple that's like getting their house to start their family, and you're like part of the process of helping them do that. So it is kind of special. I'm always like, if they move to Red Bank, I'm like, oh, when you have kids, like we have a great kids program for jiu-jitsu.
Oh, he's like, I'm just trying to serve this community.
I'm just trying to like keep it all. I just hit my mic.
Yeah.
It's very easy to do.
But no, it's cool. It's cool.
That's nice. You can kind of intertwine the two as well. Like it keeps you close to the community.
Yeah. So could I flip the question for you guys? So you guys are doing the inverted gear thing, which me and my gym we all love. We're through and through an inverted gear gym. So a lot of the guys, I told them this morning, they're like, we want more stuff on the website. They're craving some new gear. It's coming.
It's coming.
But what are you guys working on these days? Is there anything new coming up, or?
So shoes are coming out. Rope bottom shoes are being released this Friday. This podcast will probably release after the shoes have been released. Alpargatas or espadrilles, they're like very popular in Spanish countries. And
espadrilles.
Yeah, espadrilles in Spanish.
Closed-toe or
They're closed toe, so it's like a slip-on, and then the bottom is like this rope that makes the sole. Is like the rope is just rolled into the sole. And then they have a rubber bottom with a panda and like a bamboo thread pattern, which came out really good. Hillary killed it. And the top is a gi material. That's the Jiu-Jitsu connection. So it's like a gi material slip-on, available in 4 colors. That is something cool. I don't think anyone else has done it. I love their shoes, and I wanted to get a set for my own, but everybody makes them really narrow and pointy. So I made sure mine fit Jiu-Jitsu feet. They're like a little bit wider than the regular Toms or what have you.
Similar to this that I wear every day. You ever see like the Sanooks? Is it similar to that kind of thing? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm definitely gonna get these panda shoes because,
Okay. I know a guy, and the other thing we've been working on is the fitness equipment. So like heavy clubs and kettlebells are available. We're getting the second shipment of kettlebell is shipping in a week or 2, I believe. And we changed the way the kettlebell is packaged. We had some issues with the packaging early on that we figured out since. And now the factory is doing a better job putting like a styrofoam mold around it. So like there's like no empty space in the box for the kettlebell to go flying at FedEx. Because FedEx just throws packages around. So the boxes were just ripping.
Reddit, I think a couple days ago.
Oh, there's so many. It's hard to,
I'm a FedEx employee who's at my wit's end. This is what your packages look like, and it's.
Oh yeah, it was a truck. Yeah, it was a truck all messed up. Dude, I deal with that every day. Every day there's there's just issues. I mean, the pandemic, USPS got hit hard, like the postal service, and we had packages that the label would say like first class or priority mail, 2-day shipping or 1-day shipping or whatever, and it would take 6-7 weeks to arrive. So my inbox was really fun during the holidays, and we are very lucky that most of the people that buy our product, like some people were just very irate at me, even though there was nothing I could do. Were very cool. We're understanding. They were patient. Some packages got lost. We reshipped and took care of people. Some people just wanted a refund. We refunded people. Did everything we could to make sure people got the Christmas gifts. Another thing we're working on is a board game. So that's been on the all the art has been commissioned. We got a few samples.
Is it gonna be
Riley Bodycom and a few other people are helping me.
Candyland kind of piece game, or is it more like a card game?
It's more of a card game. It's more of a card game, and it's very the idea is every round you pick a training partner, you learn techniques, and you go to tournaments. So it's pretty much the jiu-jitsu experience in a nutshell.
Can someone yell don't tap on the side and
You can do whatever you want, Chris.
More or less, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
You can take an acai break.
You can take there's an car is an acai bowl. There's a card called Brazilian Accent. You win all ties, stuff like that.
Stinky geese.
Stinky geese are in there. And we divided techniques around. There's 4 types of techniques, and then I don't want to go too deep into it, but it'll be on Kickstarter soon.
Nice.
So.
And this is brand new for you guys too, right? The podcast.
Yeah. The podcast is brand new. Also, there's something we're working on. Like you said, people want what we get asked the most is new geese and new T-shirts. I'm wearing one of the new T-shirts. And the other aspect we get asked is just, can you guys create more content? And I was very active. I was writing a weekly blog for a long time. It kind of fell off that. So I believe this podcast, this kind of content is the future. So we're working on it, and hopefully we'll get good at it, and hopefully people enjoy these. And I'm hoping I'm gonna be more strict, turning down the COVID talk at the beginning of the episodes.
But at the same time, you can't not. it's been our life.
Yeah,
for
it is the reality we live in.
It'd be kind of ingenuine to just like be like, oh, what's up, like, you know.
So you good?
Yeah.
I'm good.
But I think we got away from it. We talked about some cool stuff.
Yeah, no, I think we got through some awesome stuff. As we wrap up, how can people find you online and give the Academy a plug? I don't think we even named it by name yet. So talk about the Academy for a minute and where people can find Chris online.
Gym, yeah, so the gym is Garden State Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy at Garden State BJJ on Instagram. Located in Red Bank, New Jersey. And that has been open since 2013. That's where the
earlier.
which is going to go viral.
Start?
The black belt can't remember when he started training clip. But that's where that confusion came from. So we've been there since 2013. Ain't going nowhere. Back stronger than ever. But no, we got some cool stuff. We just started like an MMA program, which has been really popular, and our kickboxing is kind of taking off. So kind of expanding a little bit of that stuff. The trips is Elevation Escapes, at Elevation Escapes on Facebook and Instagram. And you can find me on Facebook, Chris Ulbricht, or my Instagram is Ulbreezy, ULBREEZY. And I had a blast. It's always great catching up with you guys. And not to go back to COVID, but it is nice to talk to you again on a podcast. And definitely things are looking better than they were the last time.
Yes.
So,
yeah, we're on the upswing for sure.
It's like we mentioned earlier, we're definitely, hopefully, I'm staying positive that we are at the tail end of the situation and we can go back. And I love visiting you at your gym. So that is, when we get back to training, that is definitely a stop. I love swinging by your gym, and then
too, right now, you dabble.
Yeah, a little bit. I need a longboard. I need a boat. Carry all this weight around.
Do a surf and train day this summer.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to. Even if we don't surf, he's going to the beach. I need the Jersey in me is like I'll need one hit of Jersey Shore a year. I need to see orange people. It makes me happy.
We got orange people.
Plus, all the good coffee spots and all the good restaurants in Red Bank. And for people that have never visited Red Bank is an awesome little town to walk around and get food.
I was gonna say I just like going to Red Bank. Whatever we do, it's usually very enjoyable.
New Jersey.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, no, it definitely has a different. The town of Red Bank, 100%, has a different feel than the rest of the shore.
Very hip. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for having me on, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon. All right. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you for listening, Panda Nation. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Inverted Gear podcast. You can find us at invertedgear.com as well as your favorite podcast app. Don't forget to give us a like, and we'll see you soon.